you feel like it goes where you've been before.
Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's ubnradio.com.
This is Pure Pollino on UBN Radio. Stargazer, food taster, fun chaser. Indulging in the culinary creations from the top restaurants and top bloggers across the nation and around the globe. Charting the course for people and celebrities over the entire astrological universe. Chasing down fun around every street corner. Pure Pollino starts now.
And it is Thursday, and I missed you all. I totally missed you all. Tuesday sucked. It sucked big time. I'm like walking out the door, and all of a sudden I get this call, and apparently the show, there's power outage in Hollywood, and the show had to be pushed and canceled, and I was really bummed about that. Most of all, I was bummed because I missed all of you, because I need you. I need that contact. But the good news is today, we're going to blow your Italian-loving mind. Ron Suhanosky, a former chef, has successfully owned 2 restaurants, not just one. Duo Italiano. One in New York City, one in Nantucket. He wrote Duo cookbooks. That's 2 for those non-Italian speaking people in the audience. 2 cookbooks, one of them James Beard Award. That's pretty fantastic. And through his love of food and travel, and I found out in the green room that he is a Scorpio, of course. Passionate people. Through his love of food and travel, he's been able to develop his own style, and now he's left the business. It doesn't really leave you, does it? Or you don't really leave the business. But he started his own fashion line. So today, Ron Suhanosky joins me in studio live. Ron, welcome to the show. Thank you. Oh, wait. Let's try that one more time. And Ron, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
There it is.
There I am.
How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I am fantastic.
Thanks for having me here.
Thank you for being here. Seriously, you're. I'm always amazed at people like you that do all these amazing things, like 2 cookbooks, 2 restaurants, and now a fashion line. 3 kids. I was just going to say 3 kids. How old are your kids?
They're 12, 9, and 6.
Wow.
Yeah. Busy.
You are busy. And you live in New York City.
I live in New York City, based in Harlem.
Right. And so tell me a little bit.
Dream about living in L.A. every now and then.
Do you really?
Yeah. I think bi-coastal would be very cool at some point,
Huh.
I'm working it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really excited for a number of reasons. We also have with us today Sarah Clarke. Sarah is the sommelier at Osteria Mozza. So we're going to be talking to her in a little bit after we talk to Ron.
Yeah. What's Italian food without wine, right?
Hello.
Gotta
There's
have
no
wine.
such.
Yeah.
There's no such thing.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. So we're also going to have people, if they want, ask questions in the chat room to Ron and Sarah. And if you have, a favorite meal that you want to prepare and you need a wine, I'm going to put Sarah on the spot, which I'm really excited about. And actually, that was her giggle. So since we're winging it, she's on? She's on? Great. Okay. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's
Yeah,
a pleasure.
this is great. So the 2 of you are going to be with me the whole time, and I'm really excited. First, let's talk food before we get into fashion.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit about how you began. Suhanosky.
I know. It's Hungarian.
Okay.
Okay. So my dad's side is Hungarian and my mom's side is Italian.
Right.
The Italian side is from in and around Naples, from the Campania region. And I feel like when I was a kid, I had the best of both worlds. So Saturdays we always spent with the Hungarian side and always had a really fatty, rich meal. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
and lots of sausages and stuff like that.
Right.
And then Sunday we would do the Italian side, which was again another big feast. So by the time Sunday night came around, we were all exhausted from eating.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I have you're pretty tiny.
It's a challenge,
man.
you know. It's a
I gotta
challenge to
admit,
keep fit.
You
so.
walked in, I was like, damn, you're the fashionista. Look at you. No, he's really quite handsome and thin.
Thank you.
So, but that's
So
sounds
yeah,
like
that's how I grew up, and you know, my food, my passion for food sort of came about with my great grandmother. I was fortunate enough to know my great grandmother, and on the Italian side, and she just took me under her wing and, you know, made me her little sous chef, if you will.
that's great.
And she obviously made a lot of pasta dishes, so my love for pasta started at a very early age. And you know, the idea of eating pasta every day just sort of grew in my mind, and I loved it. I loved making all these different pasta dishes all the time. So.
Well, Sfolia is were the two restaurants that you had, correct?
Yes, sfoglia, which actually stands for a sheet of uncut pasta when you say pasta sfoglia. And so I opened up, you know, a restaurant and started a brand with the idea of pasta behind it, because I thought it was, you know, I needed to carry out my passion, and they became a huge success, and it just completed a very long process of developing my passion for food and being able to express it. It was, you know, an amazing success.
Well, you have two cookbooks, and of course I took a look through them, and they're pretty fantastic.
Thank you.
The one is a James Beard Award winner,
Which is called Pasta Sfoglia.
right. And tell me a little bit, like, we have Christmas around the corner. It's 63 days away from Thanksgiving. There are some amazing recipes in this book, but also you teach people how to make pasta.
Yeah, you know, I think that there was a time. I think now, I mean, the book came out in 2009, so you know, in and around that time, I feel like there was a stigma of how to make fresh pasta at home. People really didn't. They, you know, that challenge seemed too big to tackle, and I felt it was important that if I'm going to write a book about pasta, that people should know that it's super easy to make fresh pasta at home.
It is, right? And
just, you know, bring it down to layman's terms and how to make it very easy. I mean, fresh pasta is just made with flour, water, and you know, egg.
So, I mean, like, seriously, it is that easy that you put together these ingredients? Do you need a pasta maker, or do you?
Well, yeah, you do need. There are certain equipment things,
right,
you know, that you need to have in order to roll out pasta. I mean, my great grandmother used to just use a rolling pin because we didn't have those electric pasta machines that they have now.
Right.
But you know, if you want it to be quick and easy, I mean, I made a master recipe that you just throw in a Cuisinart to mix the dough, and then you roll it out with, you know, a little hand crank pasta machine, and there you go, you got some pasta.
Right, and there you go, you got some stuffed shells or some cannelloni.
Yeah.
Or some really good stuff. Really easy things to make.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. And also, you know, you can cut some strips, some fettuccine wide strips.
Pappardelle.
Pappardelle.
You know, very easy. It's not that difficult.
So what is your favorite dish to cook?
You know, my favorite dish to cook and to eat.
You're an eater, man.
Yeah.
I love that about you.
I'm not going to cook anything that I don't want to eat, you know? So
yeah.
My favorite thing to cook and eat is really as simple as spaghetti with a really delicious tomato sauce.
Yeah?
I just love it, yeah.
Interesting.
Spaghetti is definitely my favorite cut of pasta, without a doubt.
Huh.
If I had to pick 3 things to live on an island with, spaghetti would be one of them.
That's so interesting. Now, you go to a supermarket, you see these aisles of spaghetti, or aisles of boxed spaghetti.
Yep.
Now, obviously, you're making fresh stuff at home, right?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Spaghetti, you know, spaghetti is one of those things that I prefer to have dry.
Interesting.
There are pastas and pasta sauces that are meant for each other. Italians are very particular about what sauce to put with their pasta and whether it's fresh pasta or dry pasta. So, you know, you gotta follow those guidelines, and that's what makes those dishes so delicious.
Give me a
well, like a bolognese, for instance,
right,
like a really nice, you know, meaty sauce.
Right.
You want to have, if you're gonna put it with a fresh pasta, you have to have like a really meaty, you know, thick cut pasta,
right,
like pappardelle.
Right.
You can put it with rigatoni, which is a dry pasta. So there's your two options. You have a fresh pasta pappardelle, which is very thick and meaty.
Right.
And then you have a dry pasta, which is rigatoni, that scoops up the sauce. That, the little tubes that.
Yeah, they're my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be one. You wouldn't put spaghetti with bolognese, even though a lot of Americans do. It's not really typical in Italy.
Really?
Yeah.
What's typical in Italy? What?
Typical Italy, what do you mean as far as
Like
a pasta
dish?
You never put fresh pasta sauces or certain pasta sauces with fresh pasta. Like seafood pasta, you typically have dry. You don't really have, like linguine and clam sauce.
It's one of my favorites.
That would be a typical Italian,
Right.
pasta dish.
Well, I was just back in South Philly this past weekend, and my aunt served me crab macaroni.
Yeah. That was a staple in my childhood.
Yeah.
My great grandmother used to make spaghetti and crab sauce.
That's it. That's what we had.
With lobster tails and
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
like that.
It's
and
awesome.
We rarely had fresh pasta with seafood.
And I can't find that out anywhere, like the crab sauce and
Yeah.
and
It's in my book.
it,
Pasta sfoglia.
that's great. But yeah, I can't find it anywhere, and it was a staple for me growing up.
Yeah.
That and spaghetti and clams.
Yep.
Two dishes that I just adore.
Yeah.
So they say, we were talking about this a minute ago. When we were out in the green room. I was saying, American food is ingredient driven.
Mm-hmm.
French food is technique driven.
Is that your Julia Child?
That's my Julia Child. So finish the sentence for me. Italian food is
I would say it's romance driven. There's such a love for food, and Italians they show their love through food. I lived in Italy for a while, traveled around, and that's how Italians show their love, is through food.
I get it. That's why I started this show.
It goes right to your stomach, and you just become so happy.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. I mean, how could you not be happy eating Italian food?
You cannot. That's been the point of the show.
Yeah. I think that's, a lot of especially old school Italian families.
Right.
Really, if you went out on a date and you brought a boy home, that would be like, we're making a meal.
Yeah.
And this kid is going to sit down and we're going to get to know who this
Oh
kid
yeah,
is.
that's the way it is. That's the way it was. Even when my mom would visit, she lived in California and I was living in Philadelphia still. She would come and visit her husband. When her husband came, everybody's like, "Oh, we're cooking for Carl. We're cooking for Carl." Then we get it became a thing.
An event. It's like an event.
Yeah.
There's no.
So
I remember when one of the first times I visited a family member in Sicily, and I didn't have any expectation, but I had to undo my belt because I was so full, and she would not let us leave the table. We had to continue to eat.
Right.
And I didn't want to stop eating, but I just couldn't physically put anything more in my body because I was so full.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's love. That's what this is all about. So if you wanted to offer advice to someone cooking an Italian meal for friends, right? What would you suggest? Seriously, like if you had a favorite meal, and it sounds like spaghetti's your favorite meal, but
yeah, I mean, well, first of all, an Italian meal is a very well balanced, in moderation type of sit down. It's a meal that's very well balanced. Italians don't sit down and eat a big bowl of pasta like Americans do.
yeah,
They just don't.
no, they don't.
You have a little bowl of pasta as part of your meal, and then you have, you obviously you start off with some antipasti, then you have your pasta, and then you have your secondi, which is either a meat or fish.
Okay.
And then you have a salad and then dessert. So that is a typical Italian meal. There's no variation of that. That's how you sit down and
That's
eat
it.
in Italy.
Yeah.
Americans have, we have this desire to eat big,
That's funny.
one big meal in one big plate. So if we're having steak, we want mashed potatoes and vegetable and everything on the same plate. If we want a bowl of pasta, we want to have, a big bowl of pasta. And that's just how Americans have,
That's how they
that's how we eat.
Yeah, that is,
So-
and we overstuff ourselves.
Yeah.
But going back to that idea, and I think this is why tapas restaurants are so popular now. The smaller plates to share are just amazing.
Yeah.
It's an amazing experience.
And that's really, Italians also have that concept where it's family style.
Right. It's
dining,
always family style dining.
you sit down at a table, you have big platters of food that are, like the last meal. I mean,
I
it's
know.
like literally the last meal you're having every single time you
Right.
sit down.
So now we have this change in direction for you, as we change the direction of the show into fashion.
Mm-hmm.
So where did that come from, and really why wait, hold on.
All right.
Wait.
I'm holding.
Why did you leave this passionate business that you love? We're going to find out about that. Plus,
Talk
some
about some
wine
wine.
loving coming up after the break. So stay with us.
Buonasera, signorina, buonasera. It is time to say goodnight to Napoli. Though it's hard for us to whisper buonasera with that old moon above the Mediterranean Sea. In the morning, signorina, we'll go walking where the mountains help the sun come into sight. And by the little jewelry shop we'll stop and linger while I buy a wedding ring for your finger. In the meantime, let me tell you that I love you. Buonasera, signorina, kiss me goodnight. Buonasera, signorina, kiss me goodnight. Buonasera, signorina, buonasera. It is time to say goodnight to Napoli. Though it's hard for us to whisper buonasera with that old moon above the Mediterranean Sea. In the morning, signorina, we'll go walking where the mountains help the sun come into sight. And by the little jewelry shop we'll stop and linger while I buy a wedding ring for your finger.
Okay. That was one of my favorite movies of all time. You guys know what I'm talking, right?
The Big Night.
That's right.
I actually did an event at my restaurant on Nantucket, and we called it the Big Night. And we had Stanley Tucci's parents there, who I'm friends with, Joan and Stanley Sr. And we did this big, huge event called the Big Night. And it was an invite only, and some of our customers actually came in costume from that era of time.
That's great.
It was, and every table was packed with people, and we did big family style platters of roasted, porchetta and stuff
my
like that. And it was
God.
like a night to remember.
Oh, wow. That sounds really great.
It was fun.
That would be fun. Like a big night party.
Yeah.
Like that would
Totally.
be fun to do.
Yep.
So we're back. And we were talking with Ron Suhanosky, who owned 2 restaurants in New York City and in Nantucket, 2 cookbooks, and now has his own fashion line. First of all, and of course, Sarah Clarke, I don't mean because you're on camera, from sommelier from Osteria Mozza. We're going to be talking wine. I'm teasing it. I'm teasing you. I'm just keeping you here.
That's great. I love to talk about wine all the time.
So first of all, Ron, why? I can tell you're a really passionate guy. Why did you leave this business that you're really passionate about?
Well, I think at the end of the day, I'm really an artist, and I think chefs are artists.
They are.
in every capacity, and we like to design food on plates and flavors and stuff like that.
Right.
And I just felt like I had so much more in me to expand on and try to express to the world and let it out of me, and I felt too restricted by the 4 walls of a restaurant.
Interesting.
So I needed to break away.
And you broke away into fashion.
Head on.
Head on.
Yeah.
You now have a company, a line of accessories
Called XOR,
Yes.
which a lot of people may ask, what does XOR mean? But XOR for me ever since I've been able to sign my own signature, I've always signed XOR. My first name is Ron, and I always say hug and kiss R. That's how I sign every email.
Oh my gosh. I do the same thing. XOM.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. XOM.
And I just
looking
thought-
at this. Light bulb.
I just thought, it was a good way for me to express who I am and attach it to a brand that I feel I'm very passionate about.
That is fantastic.
Thank you.
I really love that idea. That is really great.
And actually, I come to find out that XOR is actually shorthand for lover.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Romance.
I know.
What the hell?
Scorpio.
You
coming
are
out.
such a sexy bitch. Jesus.
Love it. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So the other thing is the well-coiffed closet.
The well-coiffed closet.
And that's why you're in LA, correct?
That's part of the reason why I'm in LA for lots of different reasons, actually.
You're now my friend. I'm going to tell you this.
I joined the team of the Well-Coiffed Closet, which is a company that does personal styling. Mm-hmm. It's run by a really close friend of mine, and when I had sort of mentioned to her that I was interested in doing fashion, she said, "Well, why don't you join the team?" And I started off sort of. I feel like I have a very good eye for style and to help other people with their own sense of style. And I found that there's a huge need for that in this day and age. I think that a lot of people are kind of searching for their own sense of style, trying not to follow other people's style, but
it's true.
And individuality. And so I'm helping out. I'm based in New York, and she's based here in LA, and we have a great clientele that we're working with.
That's fantastic. So the event is this Saturday, correct?
My event for XOR is this Saturday. I am doing a sip and shop with 2 other designers at the Rockwell here in LA.
Yeah.
And it's you come, have a little brunch, sip some wine, some champagne, and you do a little fashion shopping.
You had me at Sip.
Yeah.
You had me. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So what time, when's the event start? And
the event's at the Rockwell in LA. It starts at 12. It's going to 4. There's 2 other designers, Matthew Millions, which designs really cool jewelry, and pink cashmere. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It sounds like a really great event.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
So
I love the idea of mixing food and fashion.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say,
which really plays off of my my
who you
background,
are.
who
It's
I am.
who you are. You're defining your own style, which is fantastic.
Thank you.
You're like, with me, I'm like, I'm doing food and astrology. Everybody's like, well, like, how do you,
What's the connection?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm the connection.
Exactly.
It's me.
Yep.
This is the 2 things that I love and I'm passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is why I kind of, as soon as I started reading about you, I'm like, I love it. He's doing what he wants and he feels it in his heart and he goes for it. Mm-hmm. And that's fantastic.
Thank you.
So where can people get more information on your line?
They can go to my website, which is x-o-r.com, or they can go on Instagram, which is XOR Style.
XOR Style.
I do have a Twitter, which is XOR Pocket Square, or hashtag XOR. How do you work?
Hashtags are
I
killing
know.
me.
What are?
Man.
How do you?
I
don't even know how to do
the
it.
freaking hashtags.
And they can also check out my styling, my personal style, about my personal styling at the wellcoiffedcloset.com.
Wellcoiffedcloset.com.
Mm-hmm. So there's multiple mediums of where
There's
you
a
can
lot
find
of stuff
out.
going in my
I
mouth
know.
right now.
You need a glass of wine.
I
That's what you need.
do. And speaking of which, nice transition. Nice transition, Ron.
You're welcome.
Oh my God, I love you. Sarah Clarke is coming up next. Sarah Clarke is a sommelier from Mario Battaglia, Nancy Silverton's Osteria Mozza. It's in Los Angeles. She's going to give us tips for Italian wines and for our fall dinners, and we're just going to have a blast.
And you need to know what to wear when you're drinking this wine.
And you do need to know what to wear. And we're going to talk more fashion when we come back.
Fashion very clear. That people from good homes are talking this year.
David Bowie is not a Libra.
Nor is he Italian.
He is not Italian either. He's actually what is he? He's a Capricorn with a moon in Leo, but he is very fashionable.
Mm-hmm.
He's extremely.
He is super fashionable.
Yeah.
He's like a fashion icon.
He is, and he married that other fashion icon. What's her name? Iman.
That one.
Iman.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
So Sarah Clarke, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on standby. But you got us for the rest of the time. You're with us for the rest of the time.
Oh, great.
And we are going to dish up some stuff. First of all, Sarah grew up on the East Coast, Bethesda, Maryland.
I was born in Bethesda, Maryland. Yeah.
And you used to take trips to France with your father. Is that?
I did. He traveled a lot for business, and I got the fortunate flight with him. With his miles.
That's
and so
fantastic.
forth. And so it was great. We would go to France and other places, and I would just kind of wander around during the day and find my way, and we would have dinner at night. And it was great.
That's when. Tell me about that moment. That moment when you said, I want to drink wine for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Well, wine and food was very important in my family. We
Right.
always had dinner. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. She cooked food for us all the time. My parents always had wine with dinner. So I was exposed to it all my life. But I will say, there was a trip to France with my father. We were in Lyon. And we were at a wonderful restaurant in Lyon, and I had a bottle of Hermitage, and I thought it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen, tasted, anything in my life. And that was just the moment where I was like, I have to do this. I have
Wow.
to do this.
How old were you?
I know. I was like, this was like.
Well, maybe it wasn't the drinking age in this country, but in
Truth comes out.
France, it was okay.
That is fantastic. That's what I love. That's
Yeah.
what I love.
Yeah, and my dad's always collected wine,
Mm-hmm.
his whole life, and so I've been exposed to it through that as well. I went to culinary school. I went to the CIA in New York, and
When did you graduate?
a long time ago.
So did I.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh,
God,
wow,
that's
lots
so
to talk.
funny.
1992. I won't be afraid to admit it.
Okay, then I was 98.
Okay.
98,
Aw,
99?
come on, you guys are
99?
babies.
Maybe. I forget. Anyway, so I went there and I did my culinary externship, and I came back, and as you know, you take the food and the wine and restaurant segment of your curriculum. And so after I took the wine, that was definitely it then.
Yeah.
So I was wine driven after that.
Right. It's really interesting to me because a lot of people don't understand when you have a good glass of wine, you will never
Forget it.
you will never forget it.
It's like a date.
It is like
Yeah.
it is like a date.
It's like that date you'll never forget.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's a complete party in your mouth and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
And it can be a really great place marker. You can always remember, I had this wonderful glass of wine, and I was with this person
Right.
having this
Well, just as you
experience.
told us
and-
about your
Yeah.
that glass of Hermitage.
Yeah.
Hermitage.
Hermitage, yeah, it was great.
Tell me.
He was so sweet, the sommelier there. I loved it so much. He gave me a bottle to take home, and it was my prize bottle for forever. And by the time I opened it, it was probably corked. I'd probably ruined it. But it was just such a wonderful experience. I'll never forget that with my dad.
It's so great to have those memories and to drive that passion. That just drives your
It's
passion.
amazing how food and wine create such great memories.
Yeah.
I found through having a restaurant
Yeah.
that's people would always come back and say, oh, we had this with them, or we sat at that table, or we had that bottle of wine. And it's interesting how the table becomes this place of memory.
It's very it is. It's just shows love in so many ways. It becomes this moment and life is literally about moments that you cherish. That's what life is. It's a series of moments that you cherish. So when you're sitting down and you're breaking bread and drinking wine and having, you know, a meal that you cooked or a friend cooked, it's like somebody just gave me some kind of transfusion of love
And life.
and
Yeah.
I won't. It stays with me.
Yeah.
Even the smells
Yeah.
stay with me.
I know, I'm almost smelling garlic right now.
Oh my
Well, and
god!
Italian food and wine is so important together.
Well,
You know,
yes.
there's so much Italian wine that if you just sat and had a glass of it, it really wouldn't be a very pleasurable experience. You really need something to go with it.
I would love to talk a little bit more about that. Now, the reason I had you in here a little bit earlier, as Ron talked about some of the food and some of the dishes, let's talk about some of the dishes that he mentioned. And let's talk about some take-homes for our listeners. Like, what kind of wine do they get with a bolognese, with a pasta and bolognese, what kind of wine would you suggest?
Well, the first rule I always go by is what grows together goes together. If you're in France, you have Sancerre and you have goat cheese. It's kind of the perfect mix. Bolognese, you could go with the Sangiovese they do in Emilia-Romagna or something like that, or a different Sangiovese if you wanted to go outside the region, would be good, because a lot of the Sangioveses, depending on the specific area of Italy you get them from, can be kind of a little bit high acid, sometimes tannin, sometimes not, depending on how it's produced. But that's good with a bolognese because it's rich and it's meaty, and you've let all of the meat just kind of melt into the sauce, so you get that really rich mouthfeel. And tannin and acid are really great at kind of cutting that, so you're not just, kind of weighed down through your experience with something really rich. It really balances
Just
it.
to sort of help the listener, to clarify for the listeners, I think Europe on a whole, Italy and France specifically, are very region driven.
Right.
So like when we talk about a dish like bolognese, it's obviously coming from Emilia-Romagna, so you want to stick to wines that potentially are grown in that area.
Say that region again.
Emilia-Romagna.
Emilia-Romagna.
Romagna.
Romagna.
But I think
Very
I think that's what we're sort of talking about.
And is that the Sangiovese grape? Is that the grape?
They
that
do
you
grow one there. It's
Okay.
very different than the one they do in Tuscany. But they are both Sangioveses, both would, and it would be much easier for listeners to find a Sangiovese that's based out of Tuscany probably than Emilia-Romagna.
Okay. And so where is it in the map, in the boot, in my head?
It's right smack in the center. It's one of two regions that are landlocked.
Okay.
So you have Umbria and Emilia-Romagna that are both landlocked regions.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? Forgive me. No, Emilia-Romagna is not landlocked. Is
I don't think so. I
No.
think it's just Umbria.
No, it's Umbria and Lombardia.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Lombardia, and so forgive me, there is a part of Emilia-Romagna that comes out to the Adriatic Sea, but it's smack dab in the center.
Okay.
It's where Bologna is.
Well, that's where the bolognese. So yeah.
Parma.
Great
those-
culinary center of Italy.
Yeah.
Really?
Emilia-Romagna. Mhm.
Give me a couple of other name some dishes that would work with, and some wines. So
What about a dish with? Well, let's talk about our spaghetti and crab dish.
yes, spaghetti and
From our
crab.
childhood.
Spaghetti and crab. I generally stay white with all seafood dishes, depending. But my favorite whites from Italy, certainly Liguria. There's an area called Colli di Luni that's right on the coast that has Vermentino that is just beautiful, and it has just a nice kind of interesting salinity, minerality. Vermentino. Yeah.
And that's a wine.
That is one.
Yeah.
Well, it's
a grape.
It's a grape.
And Colli di Luni is the specific area in Liguria.
Vermentino.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Very
that's
coastal.
a white.
It is a white wine.
Okay.
Really good with fish and shellfish especially. So that would be my recommendation for that.
That's fantastic.
What about pizza?
Pizza?
That was gonna be mine.
Pizza, you can go so many ways. It clearly it depends on what's on your pizza.
Right.
I like fun stuff. I like Lambrusco or you know
Right.
something light. Palla Verga, which is a light red that you can chill, or things like that are just kind of fun to drink because pizza's kind of fun.
Right. When would you have a Chianti?
With a steak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big T-bone steak.
Grilled meat.
Yeah.
Grilled meat. Sausages.
Yep.
Fatty.
Right. Fattier.
Juicy.
And so say there's so we got the northern and then southern region of Italy. We're splitting them down. The northern wines are going to tend to be more.
Well,
It depends. There's a lot of microclimates in Italy. There's a lot of mountain ranges, but there's also, especially towards the north, it all depends on how much warmth they get during the day and their aspect to the sun.
It's so interesting. It's not like California at all. Is it?
No. I mean, I don't think so.
No.
The wines to the north, I mean, if you're going to make a big statement, are often kind of leaner, but tannin and acid.
Okay.
Where as you go farther south, when it gets warmer, the grapes get riper.
Fruitier.
They're a little bit more lush.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's narrowed Avolas and things like that.
I tend to think that northern Italian wines are very complex, and you need to have a more complex meal with them
Right.
Definitely.
to accompany them. Where southern Italian wines, you can really just sip and drink all day and
Interesting.
not feel like you're obligated to eat something with it. You can have lighter foods
Right.
like salads and stuff like that.
Yeah, and what if you step up to the bar and you're like, I just want some cheese, some olives, and some meats. What kind of wine are you going to have with that?
Well, if I would go with a white wine, I would go with a high acid wine. Olives are rich, cheese is rich. You want something to cleanse your palate. I would go with Verdicchio from the Marche because there's really nice bright acid.
What
there.
is it again?
Verdicchio.
Verdicchio. Okay, I'm getting these.
Yeah, it's tough. Italy's tough for wine. There's a lot of grapes, and
Yeah.
they're called different things in different places.
Right.
And so it's hard to. It's a little tricky, but Verdicchio is great. And Verdicchio is great when you see on a list because it's not all that well known. So you can get a great wine at a great price.
That's fantastic. And if you're going to go with a red for the cheese plate, or you wouldn't, you'd go with the Verdicchio.
I would, just because I'm a white wine person with cheese. However, I would probably go with a Sangiovese. But I would go with a moderate Sangiovese, something that's better to drink younger, something like a Rosso di Montalcino or something like that that's kind of made to drink a little earlier,
That's
a little more
interesting.
accessible.
Ron, did you want to add anything?
I'm like dying for a glass of Primitivo right now.
What's
Oh,
Primitivo?
nice.
What's Primitivo?
Well, it depends on who you talk to, but it's
it
genetically
good?
linked to Zinfandel.
It's one of the original grapes of Zinfandel.
Yeah.
Primitivo.
And
Okay,
it
write
is-
that down, y'all.
It's
Puglia.
really yummy.
Really?
Yeah.
It's great.
Is it
Also
really
another
expensive?
great wine.
I just,
No.
is it expensive?
No, it's
because
No.
really. I mean, you can get like a
Candace-
$10 bottle of Primitivo, and it tastes like a $40-$50 bottle.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a good takeaway.
Yeah.
I love that. So Primitivo, less than $15,
You can
No, you
definitely
could
get,
find one, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
and it's a red.
It's
Yeah.
a red.
And it's another good one to find on a wine list.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, on some wine lists, they can get really expensive, and so that's a good find as well, is to get Primitivo.
Interesting.
We're talking about all this Italian wine. I'm
I
certain
know,
to-
I know. So I really want to find. We were talking a little bit earlier in the green room about you working at Osteria Mozza. This is a very famous restaurant, and you also worked under Michael Vittaggio from Inc. But Nancy Silverton is also, she's a big name in the business.
Yeah, she is. She's a
And
great woman.
I hear this about her, like, really seriously.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your job. What's it like to be a sommelier?
What's it like? Well, it's a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
Especially with Italian wines because there's just so much to keep track of all the time, and they like to change their rules all the time. So you have to do that side of your job where you, kind of read and learn and know what's going on. But then you have to taste. You taste. I generally get there and I do some work in the cellar. Then we taste during the afternoon a lot, and then you work all evening selling wine to people, which is great. It's
That's
great.
fantastic. Do you
Yeah.
get drunk?
No, I don't. I don't.
My God, tasting all afternoon and
I
then having to
know.
work. I'm just like,
I know.
Is there
That would be-
like a cot in the back where you can take a nap?
That would be like the biggest tease in the world.
We spit, because if
You
you get
spit.
drunk, you can't really taste wine accurately.
right.
So you have to spit
have to
the
spit.
Do
wine.
you ever feel like even spitting, like you still have like
Oh, definitely.
a little buzz going?
Definitely. I've been to, big Barolo tastings or something like that where it's, really big, intense wines. And even though you spit everything, you just feel a little spun
still-
out
yeah,
afterwards and your
yeah.
head might hurt.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But it's great, and we taste. Our wine service allows us, we taste everything to make sure everything is correct for
Right.
people. And so it really develops your palate. It's great.
And what is some of the what are pretty much normal questions that you get like from diners?
Normal questions.
Yeah, like what do you find like every night somebody comes in and says?
Yeah.
Like we were talking the other day. Well, we were talking in agreement about people going to restaurants where like animal and it's all meat.
Yes.
People, there's
Yes.
no vegetarian dishes.
Excellent restaurant.
Right, it is. And people go in and say, there's no vegetarian fare. Like,
Yeah.
what? It's called animal. Like,
Yeah.
what are some typical questions that you find every night people are asking the same thing?
Well, the first thing that always happens is we have a very extensive wine program.
Right.
Our list is over 70 pages. So there's a lot of wine, 1,500 or something like that. And so people generally get overwhelmed on the list.
Right.
And as a sommelier, I've had that experience where I go to restaurants and it's just too much. I don't want to take time away from my guests and look. So that's the first thing that happens. The second thing, people say, I don't know anything about Italian wine. Can you help me pick something?
Right.
So I often will just take it away from Italian wine and say, what do you like to drink? Like,
Right.
what moves you? What's a bottle that you love? And then kind of bridge it from there into something from Italy.
What's the best thing somebody can say to you? What's the, you know what I mean? It's like, I think everybody kind of says the same thing. I don't know anything about Italian wines, and I don't know what I like. You know, like I'm sure you get that a lot. What's the best thing if somebody's going out to a restaurant, they can say to a sommelier that would really like help you define their tastes?
Just kind of clear instruction. Say, I like cherry fruit. I want medium body. I want to spend $80.
There you go.
Very specific.
There it is.
That makes my job very easy.
You know what question I have is, which I, as a restaurant owner, a previous restaurant owner, I always there's been times when a customer will say, I think this wine is corked, and they don't really know exactly what they're talking about. How do you handle that?
Sure. Well, we're in the fortunate position of tasting the wine.
Yeah.
However, even if it's not corked,
Explain what that is. That
corked
statement
means that there's a TCA that will affect the wine, and it will make it taste like rotten hay. It's
rotten
bad.
hay?
Stinky feet.
Stinky feet?
It's bad.
Yeah.
And it happens. And it happens a lot in Italian wine. But we always would just take the wine back if the wine's not good. Technically, you don't really have to take it back if the wine's not bad. But,
Right.
we want people to have a good experience. So, we work through that, even if somebody is maybe a little iffy about the wine.
That's interesting. What creates sulfites in wines? Like, there's a big kind of, I'd say, trend towards organics now.
Sure.
Organic grapes,
Sure.
organic wines.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about what makes a wine organic, and are sulfites a part of that, or are sulfites not a part of that? It's confusing to me.
For organic people, it is either not or minimal. It depends on where they are. If they're Demeter, if they're bio, there's a lot of different types of organics.
Right.
A lot of people in Italy are doing a lot of it. A lot of them don't necessarily want to pay to say that they're organic and go through all the certification process.
Is that right?
Or bio.
There's
yeah.
so many things that they need to do to follow
So
this
many
rule.
things.
This is very interesting. Can we
Yeah.
stay here for just 2 seconds?
Absolutely.
What do you mean by that? Like, so if I'm drinking a bottle, it could be organic, but they didn't have them.
I mean, it's
they
like a
didn't
can
wanna
of
pay.
it's like a can of tomatoes. You either have that stamp,
Yes.
that approval on
Right.
it, or you don't.
Right.
But
that approval, that stamp, costs money for those people.
well, and it
time.
requires them to follow the regulations that are that the government
okay.
applies in order for them to. I mean, it's a very tricky little game that the Italian government plays, because they'll help subsidize the property if you follow the rules that the government has in order to become organic or get that stamp. And so it's a juggle by the owner, or the producer of wine or canned tomatoes or whatever, to take that on and decide whether or not they want to go forth and follow these rules,
Right.
or save money and not follow the rules, but not have that that stamp on their product. So it's a tricky little thing to follow,
To
but-
navigate,
to
yeah.
navigate.
So what's happening right now? I think a lot of producers are doing organic, and they're not. It's not being shown on the bottle, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it is and it isn't.
I think it's 50-50, yeah.
Some people just kind of see it like, well, of course I would make the wine this way. Why wouldn't I make the wine this way? And I don't even need to certify it or say anything about it.
Right.
But then some do, because obviously, it's a nice stamp that allows people to identify with the fact that it's organic. And
Well, yeah, my girlfriend's constantly going out and asking about organic wines,
Yeah.
and it's a tough find sometimes.
well, and that's why there are people like me. Then I know the insides, and I
And
can tell
that's
you
where, and that's
who's
what
doing what.
That's why I was just going to say, a part of sommelier's job is to follow those vineyards.
Oh, yeah.
and make
And the winemakers and everything.
know these winemakers, know who they are, know the families, know how they're producing the wine, so they can best inform the patron. And I think that's fantastic. That's why having a sommelier on staff is just saying.
It's essential.
It's essential. It's
You ha-
absolutely
yeah,
essential.
You have to. Otherwise, you're in the dark
Right.
as far as knowing what.
Yeah.
So it's very, very difficult. And so you personally know, like, a lot of them are doing organics, or
Many. I mean, I wouldn't say more are that aren't, but
Right.
many.
right?
And some regions favor it more than others.
What about sulfites? Like, you see, like, I'm confused. Sulfites are part of the process, correct?
Sort of. It's a long answer, but yeah.
Oh, well, tell
and people add sulfites. What it does is it kind of just stabilizes the wine. Wines that don't have sulfites are good, but they have other problems. You can have stability issues, which volatile acidity and other issues of the wines being corked or something, because the sulfites, kind of
help preserve.
Yeah, help preserve and maintain the wine, and the travel of the wine and heat exposure and everything.
Right. Mm-hmm. So it's really essential to keep the wine fresh and.
Yeah. Well, I mean, storage is essential. How it's been, maintained in its process and so forth is essential.
Tell us why a wine has to be, was it 56 degrees? Is it 55?
Oh, well, it depends. Do you mean for storage purposes?
Yes.
Well, the colder you store the wine, the slower it will mature. But you also don't want to store the wine warm by any means either. Our cellar is 55 degrees.
Okay.
And so, give or take how many times the door opens.
Sounds like a lot in your.
You're drinking,
But yeah, it's just a nice stable temperature, and you want to make sure that there isn't too much light, too many vibrations, that kind of stuff.
Right. And now I'm asking simple questions that I know people want to know.
Yeah.
Does the bottle need to be turned on its side?
Yes.
It does.
Yes.
Why?
Because the cork will dry out.
Ah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Just like us, we need to be turned on our side.
We do.
With some cream tea.
Otherwise, our cork is going to dry.
My cork's already dry right now. That's a whole nother show. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about some events coming up this weekend. We're gonna come back with Ron and Sarah, say our goodbyes, find out a little bit more about what Nancy Silverton drinks and when she drinks.
Yes.
From Osteria Mozza. And we're also going to find out a little bit more about Ron's event this weekend and a couple more events happening all around town. So stay with us.
Got a little motto, always sees me through. When you're good to mama, mama's good to you. There's a lot of favors I'm prepared to do. You do one for mama, she'll do one for you. They say that life is tit for tat, and that's the way I live. So I deserve a lot of tact for what I've got to give. Don't you know that this hand washes that one too? When you're good to mama, mama's good to you.
Okay, and we're back, and I'm being told that we are running out of time, so we're going to do this real quick. Biodynamics. Mm-hmm. That's also a new way to do wine. Mm-hmm. According to the...
Well, I mean, there's the Biodynamic Council. There's
lunar cycle.
Well, lunar cycle, yes.
Right.
You harvest based on and plant and so forth based on the lunar cycle, and you do lots of other kinds of odd superstitious things. You take a horn and you put dung in it and you bury it
dung?
in your yes.
You mean poop?
Yes.
You mean shit?
That's what I mean. And you bury it in the vineyard.
Okay.
And there's a lot. And then there's another Demeter, which kind of looks at it as a whole
Demiser.
agrarian approach. He was a Swiss, I believe, scientist that started in the 20s.
So that's what what is it? Biodynamics.
Biodynamics.
That's really crazy. Speaking
really
of biodynamics, Nancy Silverton.
Yes.
She's tell us a little bit about every day working with her. Like, she has some things are
things that she likes. Well, when we were talking about pastas and sauces, she's so specific in what she likes that if the staff is served a pasta that doesn't have the correct sauce, she makes a note of it. As well as she definitely appreciates her glass of red wine. She works hard. She works at the Osteria most nights, and at 10 o'clock she wants her glass of wine, usually Paolo Bea, because she has a house in Umbria, and that's an Umbrian producer that is outstanding. Get your hands on Paolo Bea and drink that. It's delicious.
Hey, how do you spell it?
B-E-A.
B-E-A.
Paolo Bea.
Palobea.
That's her favorite.
I love
good.
it. Yes.
Okay,
really
great.
good.
All right. Well, a couple things before we go. I know we have to go. There is an Italian festival, the San Gennaro Italian Festival, happening. Kicks off tonight. Jimmy Kimmel and what's his damn name? Jesus, Mary and Joseph. That's not his name. But the other guy, Adam Carolla. There it is. They are the hosts. They're kicking it off tonight. It is for 4 days long, and it's an Italian feast. There's just a bunch of great stuff, and all the proceeds go to help the homeless in Los Angeles. Also, LA loves Alex's Lemonade, sold out, but it's happening this Saturday. To those that are going, thank you. That's an awesome, awesome foundation. Ron, your event is Saturday
At Rockwell, LA,
right?
12 to 4.
Yep.
Come have a little brunch,
Right.
sip some champagne,
Yes.
check out my designs
That's
as well
correct.
as 2 other designers.
And your website again?
x-o-r.com.
Got it. And also, if you go to Facebook /Pure Pollino, you will get all this information. Sarah Clarke at a sommelier at Osteria Mozza. You can meet Sarah, go there, tell her hi from Pure Pollino, and she'll give you a hug. And you can sip wine with her.
Yeah.
Thank you both for being a part of
Thank
the
you.
show.
That was great.
It's been a fun show. Next week, I'm so excited. Oysters, champagne, and they are casting for Master Chef. You want to know how to get on? I'll tell you because I have the casting director with us. That's next week on Pure Pollino. Thanks. Have a great weekend. Bye.
All right.
I am the new for reasons I can never explain. I speak the truth. I put an end to all your pain. I want guilt. I wanna drag you right through your past. I'm on a roll and I'm moving way too fast. On the way, always looking over our shoulders. On the way, always drawing guns from our holsters. I'm at the start to check every hour of the day. I stand well above and motor with my clay. Out of the depths, every soul can pay a fee. Those who are kept, I'm gonna set you free.
Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's UBNradio.com.